We'll take you out right now to the White House. Stephen Miller talking with the media, answering questions. Let's listen in.
Wrongdoing. Any other questions?
Doug Ford in Canada said he's going to put pause on those ads that angered the president. Does the White House have a reaction to the Canadians putting pause?
I want to give a chance for the White House and the president to be able to respond before I make news on that right now. So we will circle back with you on that.
Is the president still angry at Canada?
The president has been very clear about his extreme displeasure with what took place, and I will leave it to the president to provide an update on that.
Can I ask about the USS
Trump is considering plans to target cocaine facility and drug trafficking routes inside Venezuela? Can you speak to that? And given that Venezuela is not a cocaine-producing country, can you explain what the plans are there?
Well, so obviously I would not now or ever get into any detailed discussion to address any of the things mentioned in your question in any way, but I do want to address the broader issue of narcotics and the war on cartels and foreign terrorist organizations. So Venezuela, of course, is a central hub for narcotics trafficking across the Western Hemisphere. Also weapons trafficking, also human trafficking as well too. And we know that the Maduro regime is the Cartel de Sols, which is a recognized and designated narco-trafficking organization, and also Tren de Aragua is a recognized FTO, foreign terrorist organization. And so this is a central hub of terrorist activity across the Western Hemisphere. And just more broadly, as was made clear in the event yesterday, the President of the United States has made clear that narco-terrorists and narco-trafficking is a terrorist activity. These organizations are the ISIS of the Western Hemisphere. They control territory, they field armies, they exert enormous political control over nations and regions and governments and judicial systems through extortion, kidnapping, blackmail, murder, rape. And so we kind of have a situation in the Western Hemisphere where we have large, fully militarized terrorist organizations that, again, control commerce, control travel, control political systems, control the movement of weapons, people, goods, slaves, into the form of human trafficking and sex trafficking, and, of course, narcotics that are responsible for hundreds of thousands of American dead. Yes.
Status of layoffs, should we expect to see more federal employees be fired from their jobs?
Well, the longer the Democrats keep the government shut down, by definition, the more people that are at risk of losing employment and, of course, income as well, too, which is very tragic. That's why we continue to push for a clean funding bill to reopen the government and pay all of the federal workers and get back to the business of the American people. Yes.
Can I ask you about the USS Ford going to the U.S. Southern Command area being moved today? The Pentagon announced, or beginning that movement today. Is this a sign that land strikes are imminent?
Well, again, and I appreciate the earnestness of the question, but obviously I'm not going to answer any questions like that. I would just reiterate my previous answer, which is that these designated FTOs are the ISIS of the Western Hemisphere, and as the president made clear yesterday, they will be dealt with just as we dealt with ISIS. Any other questions?
What are you expecting to see on the Asian trip? Are you expecting to see a trade deal with China?
Well, the president looks forward greatly to his meeting with President Xi, and I believe he'll probably have a lot more to say about that to you and others in the press, so again, I don't want to get ahead of him. But he's looking forward to the meeting immensely, as well as, of course, our meetings in many other countries of the region, both to promote peace, security, prosperity, and, of course, to celebrate the extraordinary trade deal with Japan, which will unlock one of the largest waves of foreign investment in America, in American history. One last question.
Would you consider
Letitia James pleading not guilty today?
Would the administration consider putting U.S. troops on the ground in any capacity inside Venezuela?
Well, I would refer to what Secretary Higgs said yesterday in terms of how the Department of War is viewing the issue of the strategies that are being used to fight these terrorists in the Western Hemisphere. And I'll just continue to reiterate what I've said before, and I know that you want more detailed answers than I can provide. But these are terrorists, and they're going to be killed. Thank you very much.
But it's a significant escalation, Stephen, right? You would say, moving the carrier group?
All right, you're just listening in there as the Gerald Ford carrier group moving into the Caribbean asked questions about some of those strikes on those narco-terrorists, alleged narco-terrorists in that region. We did see one most recently in the Eastern Pacific as well, so obviously on both sides of Central America. But he's also pressed on the, obviously, tension between the United States and Canada. I want to put up this here on Live Now from Fox, the most recent post from the New York Post, as Trump terminates trade talks with China, or Canada, I should say, over Ontario's fake anti-tariff ad featuring Ronald Reagan, as the president announced he is ending all trade negotiations with Canada because of a television ad opposing U.S. tariffs that he said misstated the facts and was aimed at influencing U.S. court decisions. You can see this in an AP article. The Ontario Premier Ford will pull an ad that prompted the U.S. President Donald Trump to end his trade talks with Canada. A live picture there in Washington, D.C. And the post on Trump's Truth Social site came Thursday night after Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said he aims to double his country's export to countries outside the U.S. because of the threat posed by Trump's tariffs. Trump's call for an abrupt end to negotiations could further inflame trade tensions that have been building between the two neighboring countries for months. Trump posted, quote, "The Ronald Reagan Foundation just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was paid for by the Ontario government, not the Canadian federal government. The Ontario government said it planned to pay $54 million, or about 75 million Canadian, for the ads to air across multiple American television stations using audio and video of then President Reagan speaking about tariffs in 1987. The Premier, Doug Ford, didn't back down, posting on Friday that Canada and the U.S. are friends, neighbors, and allies. Reagan knew both are stronger together. So we're following that very closely here on Live Now from Fox. Obviously, plenty of conversation. The trade partner that is, as President Trump calling off those last night. We'll see what it has on the markets and also if there will be any mending of that relationship moving forward. I'm Andy Mack. We're back after this.